Chapter 22, Part 2. Let's go to the calcite too. I just watched the fun for half an hour, and the two of them still haven't solved more than a dozen wool materials in their shopping carts. There are many people there, and it seems that everyone has identified that good luck comes from that position, even if there is a long queue. Jean Mao and Ngu respectively came to the two adjacent self-service calcification machines, fixed the wool on the table, and planned to calcine them by themselves. Bai Jing weighed the 3 pieces of wool that he had picked at the stall owner Wang Ping, with a total weight of 35.5 kilograms and a total of 8,500 star coins. Seeing him, Wang Ping said with a smile, "Little master, thanks to you today. How can I be so embarrassed to earn your money again? That's good. These few pieces of wool are wiped off, and they will be calculated at a 50% discount. Next time you come over, you will come to me more to cheer. It is worthy of being the first booth on Gambling Stone Street." The owner of the booth, Wang Ping, has become a fine character, and he will calculate the interests and the interests clearly. Bai Jing has brought him a lot of business, and it is necessary to show his favor properly. Besides, young Master Jean and this young master are obviously not people who are short of money. For the sake of long-term planning, this transaction is definitely not a loss. If it wasn't for the other party's upright temperament, what if he waived all the thousands of star coins? I am afraid that the young man will not agree. Bai Jing paid 4,000 star coins with his light brain and came between the two. Here, the little fat man Jean Mao had several experiences of gambling stones before, and he soon began to dissociate stones. And Ngu was operating the calcifier for the first time, and he was in a hurry. With the help of Bai Jing, he successfully opened the laser knife and dropped the first knife. The first piece of wool for the two was cut out of white stones, which is a normal situation among such cheap scraps. Jean Mao unraveled 6 pieces of wool in a row, not to mention emeralds, not even one piece of green. Ngu unraveled 4 pieces, but there was nothing but a piece of jade flesh that was destroyed by ringworm. Seeing this situation, they couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. If it goes on like this, when will they be able to accumulate enough 5 points? Brother Jing, or you can help me solve it. Jean Mao usually doesn't believe in fortune or anything, but this way of gambling is really a test of mentality, so he came up with this method. Bai Jing came to him, and while observing the wool, he penetrated his perception into the remaining 4 pieces of wool. 3 of them had nothing inside, but one of them sensed an active reaction, and the degree of activity was acceptable. The piece of wool was right at the top, and Bai Jing comforted the little fat man. "Try again. Maybe you will get jade." After Jean Mao heard it, he took out the oval piece of wool. "Brother Jing, I will listen to you." Although he said this, he was still very depressed. After a hasty observation, he cut a knife directly at the 3rd point. It's green." Seeing the dark green peeking out from the inside, the little fat man's eyes widened suddenly, and he almost jumped up with excitement. Some of the people surrounding the stone gambler immediately gathered over to witness the birth of jade. No matter how many times you've seen it, it's an exciting thing to unravel the jadeite in the rough. Jean Mao's hands trembled a little. He no longer cut the stone as hard as before, but replaced it with a grinding wheel and rubbed it finely. This was the first time he had been gambling, and the feeling of fullness in his heart almost broke through his chest. After about 20 minutes, only a small part of the wool was wiped out, and the people next to him couldn't wait. At this speed, it is estimated that it will not be solved in a few hours. As I said, cut a knife directly at the back and see if the cut goes up. That's right, otherwise it's useless to wipe it for so long. Jean Mao has been operating continuously for a while. Even though the grinding wheel is very sensitive, his arm still needs to be strong. Especially after the excitement subsides, the exhaustion swept over, making him a little tired indeed. He shook his right hand and put on the laser knife, intending to cut the knife first as others said. As the saying goes, rubbing up does not count as up, but cutting up is counted as up. There may be various situations such as green skin, cracks, ringworm, etc. While the cut rise means that the jadeite is connected together, which is a real bet. Just when he was ready to cut, he was a little unsure. If the angle of everything is wrong, if the jade inside is chopped up, most of the energy will escape, but it is a pity. Jean Mao gestured a few times before he dared to attack, so he could not help but cast his eyes on Bai Jing for help. Bai Jing did not refuse. After careful observation, he drew a line diagonally along the bottom quarter. He had just sensed the range of the emerald with his senses, but when he drew the line, he meant that the bottom was slightly offset by half a centimeter, so as not to be too coincidental. The little fat man turned on the button of the laser knife, and the blue beam condensed into a sharp blade, which cut along the scribed line. Cut up. It's the oily green seed. I saw that the cut surface under the strong light showed a greasy texture, a slightly darker color, and contained a small amount of impurities. It was at most medium, but it was also greatly increased. You must know that it only cost 2,000 points to buy this piece of wool, and the oily green jade inside is at least a dozen times more than that. Seeing that the cut was rising, Jean Mao was instantly refreshed and quickly operated the grinding wheel to polish along the outline of the jade. In less than 10 minutes, he solved a piece of oily green jade that was the size of an adult fist. A wool merchant made an offer. This oily green seed is of average texture and not big. I will pay 40,000 star coins. The price he offered was more reasonable, and the others did not continue to bid, and the little fat man happily took out the brain and traded. Brother Jing, that's great. I earned 20,000 stars today. These 10 pieces of wool cost a total of 20,000 stars, which is half the price of this oily green jadeite. Although the overall profit is not much, the feeling of gambling up is really cool. Most importantly, he also got a point, one step closer to the first-level stone gambler. Jean Mao planned to solve the remaining 3 pieces of wool later. He changed his position to Bai Jing and went to Nge. Nge's 5 pieces of wool have all collapsed, and he is now working on the last one. The performance of this wool material is not good. There are no pine flowers or python belts on the surface, and there is a sparse black spot ringworm underneath. It really doesn't look like a wool material that can produce jade. But for some reason, when he saw this piece of wool at first glance, he felt very familiar, so he bought it without hesitation. The successive betting increases of 2 friends are a kind of pressure for him. Even if he is not a competitive personality, he will inevitably be affected. Nge took a deep breath, put the wool on the calciner and fixed it, rubbed the leather shell and dropped the first knife. The cut surface is unsurprisingly a white stone. He was not lost, and after careful observation drew a second tangent. The blue laser flickered coldly and cut a second knife along the wool. Still not green. Nge calmed down and continued to drop the third knife. At this point, less than 1/3 of the wool was left, but there was no sign of greening at all. If others had given up long ago, and the remaining wool was no more than the size of a fist, and there was no green on the cut surface, wouldn't it have to collapse? Nge bit his lip tightly, put away the laser knife, and replaced it with a grinding wheel. He has an extraordinary feeling for this piece of wool, which is why he has not given up until now. His intuition told him that there must be jade in this piece of wool. Due to the continuous increase in gambling, there are more and more people in the store, and there are several people waiting for the calcite in front of almost every calcite machine. Seeing that the boy had replaced the stone cutter with a grinding wheel, everyone expressed their confusion. This cut surface didn't even show green. Why did it get wiped? I said, little brother, don't be stubborn. This piece of wool is obviously useless. Just cut it with a knife. That's right. I'm still waiting for the calcite. How long are you going to wipe it? Nge is introverted and inferior. Hearing the urging voices of these people, his face turned pale for a while, but he still did not stop to hold the hand of the grinding wheel. The little fat man Jean Mao had a hot temper and quarreled with the man directly. Uncle, you don't understand the rule of first come first serve? My friend is dissolving stones. What if I destroy the jade meat inside? The middle-aged man had a strong sarcasm on his face. Just this piece of wool, how could it be? Before he could finish speaking, his eyes widened in an instant, and he said incredulously, wipe it green.